Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me for this episode is Anthony DeBundo. BJ Cunningham has the night off. Together, Anthony and I are going to tiptoe our way through a handicapping adventure, breaking down all 10 Premier League matches upcoming this weekend. He'll go through some bets across Europe he likes, and we'll give out our 3-leg underdog parlay. We didn't let BJ off that easy. He still gave an underdog. And then our best bets for the upcoming Premier League slate. So, Anthony, without further ado, with further ado, because I got to read a read from our friends at Bet365. Wondergoal is presented by Bet365. And Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. It believes every sport should be epic. Every tournament, every game, every point, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. See for yourself when you sign up today with the promo code ACTION, and you'll get $365 in bonus bets when you bet just $1. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older, and you must be present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, or Virginia. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, Anthony, without further ado, it's time to dive into some Premier League action coming our way this weekend. Full disclosure, we are recording this as we always do on Wednesday, so there's still a couple Premier League matches to be played on Thursday. We'll touch on all of that when we get there. But one Premier League match that was played was Aston Villa's victory over Man City, and now they host Arsenal. Fun little part of the schedule here for Unai Emery's impressive bunch. They're plus 240 at home. Arsenal's traveling at plus 105. The draw is plus 260. You and BJ got personal with me when I tried to fade Arsenal with Luton Town, and it almost worked out for me, but it didn't. And now Arsenal just has made a habit of scoring equalizers and winners in stoppage time after the 90th minute, and it feels very Breaking Bad. He can't just keep getting away with this, but they do keep getting away with it. Will they do it again?
I mean, I'm certainly not betting Arsenal here. I think, at a certain point, we need to talk about the game we just watched today. And did it say more about Aston Villa, or did it say more about Manchester City? Because I think that's the biggest takeaway from this match. Because if you go through some of the stats, right, the total XG was 2.2 to 0.86. City took 2 shots. That's only happened twice in the last 5 years where City have been held under 5 total shots. The other match was this year against Arsenal on the road. Again, shorthanded. No Rodri. So they, we'll talk more about City when we get to Luton, but like in terms of this match, you have to upgrade Villa. It was the most dominant performance anybody's had against City pretty much as long as I can remember in a meaningful match where a team just completely destroyed them. And it goes beyond just that, the XG, and you look under the hood, 10 plus pass sequences, a stat that City dominates against everybody they play. City had 20, Villa had 17. So they were able to play through pressure. They were able to overcome City, who played incredibly narrow without Doku and Grealish, to the point where it was just a total struggle ball, and they had no way through. And it never really looked like City was going to score. So, credit to Villa. You have to upgrade them. I didn't really take a ton away from the Arsenal match against Luton, to be honest with you. Like, yes, Raya was terrible. You could say that's a concern. Arsenal's got this goalkeeper thing going on where they don't really know who the goalie is, the best goalie. They play Ramsdale. He tries to give away goals against Brentford. They play Raya. He does give away goals against Luton. Luton had, 3 box shots, and the first 3 shots all went in. That's not something that's going to continue to happen against Arsenal's defense. I did think Luton did a really nice job disrupting buildup, but that's not really what Villa's going to do anyway. Villa doesn't really press a ton, so they're going to give Arsenal a chance to get their sequences in. The thing for me is, can Villa do that again against Arsenal's press, which has been better? Can they get those sequences? Can they get their ball progression? Villa at home, we said another thing, Villa at home, they haven't really played anybody, but when they've been at home, they've been dominant. This season, now they have a real opponent, and they've completely destroyed them. Villa at home this year, plus 1.46 XG difference per 90. Villa away, minus 0.38. So it's pretty dramatic. It would be Villa or nothing for me here. I think if you do like them, maybe look toward the money line because it is high variance with the style that they're playing right now. But I certainly am going to have to build the courage to bet Villa, though, because of my positions and how I've been relative on the market with them most of the season so far. So, it should be a fun one.
That is a Saturday game. Let's jump ahead to Sunday for the other headliner. Tottenham. Tottenham hosting Newcastle. Spurs as a home favorite on the three-way line, plus 125. Newcastle plus 175. The draw here is plus 280. It's a little tricky because both teams are playing on Thursday, so we gotta pump the brakes here a bit. Nonetheless, I like Newcastle here, even on the road, where maybe they don't do their best work, but with Tottenham's vulnerabilities on defense, Newcastle's ability to punish you quickly, get the ball, put it forward, and this does feel a little similar to what we were talking about with Everton and Newcastle. With this thing could end up being a ping pong match, and I would trust Newcastle's defense, even with some of the injuries, to hold better. They're more robust, be a more robust unit than compared to Tottenham. So, yeah, I'm sorry to say it, Anthony, but I'm going to be going against your Spurs here.
Yeah, I probably will be too. Like you said, we don't know what Newcastle Everton will look like. We don't know what Spurs West Ham will look like. I think we learned more from Spurs West Ham in terms of like what do Tottenham look like with Romero back in the lineup and Richarlison potentially back in the starting 11. They have taken money ahead of this West Ham match on Thursday, which by the time you listen to this, you probably will have already happened. So I do think Spurs are going to win at home. Maybe they get a little bit of market love off that win, and I can come back on Newcastle. I generally agree too. I think when you look at this matchup, the one thing you're going to hear is like, yes, Tottenham want to play out. Newcastle will press them. They will be aggressive and look to create those high turnovers. Newcastle, by every metric, are the better team. But, I think one interesting thing, Dortmund had some success with this in the Champions League. When Newcastle has the ball, can Tottenham's press off the ball create those high turnovers and expose some of Newcastle's maybe frailties in possession where they're not as consistent? And then, Tottenham does to Newcastle what Newcastle does to so many different teams. And Tottenham is the one who's able to break at pace at this back line and maybe expose this defense a little bit more than we've seen some of the bigger sides do it, where Arsenal and City have kind of grinded the match to a halt. When teams have tried to play a more frenetic style, they have been able to create some chances against this Newcastle defense. So, another game where, you look at the market and we see how Tottenham looks on Thursday, and we can kind of draw conclusions off of that. I don't really have a strong opinion on this game. I do lean toward Newcastle just based solely off the number because I am lower than the market on Spurs right now. But again, I'm willing to say that like Tottenham is a very influx team because of how the players are coming in and out, and they could look really good tomorrow and kind of change my belief on that. As far as the total goes here, like I was like, oh, maybe the market really likes these Newcastle unders. Maybe it'll be like the flat 3. But no, it's like over 3.25. And I kind of think that's right. I do have the stat on it now. So heading into this match week, I'm going to wait till after the match week to get the data. Overs in the Prem are 80 and 60 coming in. And we did have a majority of the games go over again today. So they continue to just absolutely roll, going over by 0.35 goals per 90. And that's, with the market slowly adjusting upward. We've talked about that on the show, and they're still going over. The last month has actually been even more pronounced than the early season trend. So it's kind of remarkable, the Prem changing the way it has this year and the market not being able to catch up. 8% ROI if you blindly bet every Prem over this year. So, and I think Tottenham and Newcastle are a perfect example of that with Newcastle, even when the market steams against their attack and says, well, they can't possibly keep doing this. Like, look at their box entries, look at their X threat. It's not that good. The market steams under, and then the game flies over every single time. So This total's 3.25. Definitely too high to play the over for me, but not going to play the under either.
Should we go 0-0?
What, for this game?
Yeah.
I don't know that Tottenham play a 0-0 all year, to be honest. The only time they play a 0-0 is if they get like an extreme low block team who doesn't even really try to attack them. Like the Palace game could have been a 0-0 if the own goal doesn't go in, right? Like and change the game. Those are only I don't really see them playing a 0-0 out with any of these.
Nobody plays a 0-0
teams
anymore.
Well, that's also true, but I mean, like Arsenal City should have been a 0-0. Arsenal Newcastle could have been a 0-0. City Newcastle, like
maybe. So that's 16-1. It should be higher than that, but that's about as high as you'll get a 0-0 in the Premier League.
And Spurs are getting some of their attacking guys back. So, like a Johnson, Kulusevski, Richarlison, Son, all of a sudden doesn't look too bad for them. Even
Richarlison rocks. It's always something I like to just at least pitch backwards from on these big games is just take a peek at it because it's the thing that nobody's going to bet. Palace and Liverpool. Kristen Bull. Palace at home, they're plus 425. Liverpool traveling as an odds-on favorite, minus 167. The draw here, 3-1. If you believe in bogey teams, Palace has been that for Liverpool in its past. We all remember Kristen Bull. It was a lot of fun for everybody but Anthony. I guess what would you call just a solid day at the office for Liverpool kind of win against Sheffield United. Get the goal from Virgil, and then the late one against Chris Wilder's blades to make it 2-0. So it looks, just kind of ho-hum there. I will say the way this one sets up with Palace at home and just sitting deep and looking to make this an absolute chore for Liverpool, it's never a bad idea. Never a bad idea to back Palace in this matchup.
No, yeah, I agree. I think Liverpool did show some defensive frailty, right? Like they give up a big chance pretty early on in that match. The first big chance of the game actually went to Sheffield, which I thought was a little bit concerning for them. Sheffield's historically bad. So, am I going to go be worried about that? No. I do think Liverpool are clearly upgraded with Ibrahima Konate in the fold. He's been in and out of the lineup with injury. He is huge in ball progression for them and was big today. I think that this line is a little bit inflated. We look at some of the teams that have gone to Palace this year and just kind of run down the list. Arsenal closed minus 115 at Palace. I really thought that was a little short, but Liverpool laying over a goal here at some shops. This is getting up to minus 190 at some books. They upgraded them off of today. Liverpool, Salah getting subbed off in the 67th minute looked exhausted. And they did look a little leggy to me. They still conceded 0.8 XG, which, against most teams is fine. But Sheffield, as bad as they've been, don't normally get to 0.8 XG unless there's a penalty involved in the game. That's the only time that they really get to over one consistently, or a red card against the other team. So I think Liverpool still have the vulnerable defense. And, you saw it with Fulham when I laid Liverpool and Fulham owned me again. But the Kelleher downgrade is real. Also, Palace, Michael Olise does make a difference. And he's not as good as Eze for me, but he did a ton of ball progression in the West Ham match and was lively there. I did not have eyes on Palace Bournemouth today. It did not make the cut, but it wasn't a great performance for them. But again, I think this Bournemouth team is quickly trending up, and we're going to talk about them shortly. But I think in terms of matchup and spot, it's pretty tricky for Liverpool, just given how much the fixtures are piling up and how tired their top guys look to me. So I'm going to take Palace plus one. Numbers play for me. I have Liverpool around minus 150. So the minus, 190-ish. It's a little too high to win this one. And they did lose Matip too. So that could, he's done for the year now. So that could matter.
Yeah, I'll likely be on the Palace money line.
Of course.
One of the spots of the year that I just always bet. All right, Brighton and Burnley. Seagulls minus 188 coming off the win against Brentford. Burnley losing to Wolves are plus 450 for this one, and a draw here would pay out plus 350. Got nothing here. I don't think that there's anything to really get into. You could maybe make a nice avenue for a Brighton route and chase that, but hey, always okay to pass. So
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
gonna do
think
that.
I don't think Burnley has like the transition talent to really expose this Brighton team, and I don't really know if Burnley's approach works in this spot at
Right.
Brighton. It feels like they're walking into a tough spot. They did play well against Wolves. They were the better team for
Better,
majority of
yeah.
that match. Sanderberga makes like a really dumb touch facing his own goal, and they give up a goal to Chan Huang. Um, but like the XG, the whole match like felt like a coin flip. So tough beat for Burnley backers. I don't really still want to bet this team though, and I think that they are properly priced here. With Brighton now being undefeated when I bet against them this season after a deserved win against Brentford. I mean, Brentford gets the pen early. Brighton controls most of the match. Brentford matches are always hard though because they do get so game state dependent. But overall, yeah, it was a good spot for them.
Scott McTominay, your odds-on favorite for the Ballon d'Or after today's. United next, minus 182 hosting Bournemouth. McTominay gets the another brace. I feel like if he scores one, he's always going to score another. He only scores in twos to lead United to a win over Chelsea. We were on that one last week, or over the midweek, I should say. Now they get to host.
Not me, of course. You guys.
Not yeah.
Good
Well,
call.
I mean,
yeah.
You haven't won a bet all season. We're trying to get you. We're trying to get you your first win.
I'm
on
still
the
waiting.
campaign.
Actually, a DFB Pokal, only place I win bets now. We had a good day there.
Bournemouth is 4-1, traveling to Old Trafford, and the draw here is plus 333. I loved that Manchester United spot against Chelsea, and I absolutely hate this one against Bournemouth. Bayern Munich on the other side of the horizon in the Champions League on was it Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it is. This Bournemouth team improving. They got healthy, kind of got out of a tough part of their schedule. As you know, we tried to tell you about this all season that this team was going to get better.
They're so good, man. They're going to finish
and
like 10th.
They're onto something here. They're dangerous in the spot. Absolutely dangerous against a United defense that nobody is going to trust. The one thing, like, we know that Bournemouth can get absolutely pasted. It's happened already this season on a couple of occasions. Everton, Arsenal, City. I mean, Liverpool, they went up, and then it ended up getting lopsided. So I don't know what you want to, if you want to even get there. But they've also had some mesmerizing performances of late, which is, I think, what holds more water than the early season stuff, considering where this team is going. Like and that they've got healthier. We're starting to feel like this is the real version of Bournemouth. That win over Newcastle, if you want to nitpick and say it was a depleted Newcastle, it was still Newcastle. Was one-sided. They beat the brakes off of Sheffield United. Drew with Villa, the best team in the Premier League, and that was a little unlucky that they didn't get the win. I think that 2-2 flatters Villa. And then a really professional 2-0 against Crystal Palace. So just a really dangerous team. And a team that can punch up, and a team that is confident in its system, and the manager has been committed to the bit from the drop of the puck. So, yeah, this is a live underdog. This is exactly the time you want to bet against Manchester United too, right? Like, this is it. When everyone starts to take that deep sigh of, that deep breath, like, the storm is over. No, it's not. It's coming to you this weekend.
They're only 3 points behind City.
I know.
It's kind of wild. Here's the thing. I looked at this line 2 days ago when we recorded Sunday, and I was like, well, minus 155, 60. It's like not a full it's not a full goal. I don't really want to bet Bournemouth, but now I get the full goal because United went and had their best game of the season. Keep in mind, their best game of the season still allowed 2 expected goals to Chelsea, 10 penalty box shots, a ton of dangerous attacking moments for Chelsea. United just had way more. And look, we talked about how insane these 2 matches were today between Villa just pasting City and United pasting Chelsea. Just why we love this, this league. It's amazing because, we go on Sunday and BJ gave out Villa and United. He's much sharper than I am. I didn't bet either because I'm a coward. And now it's like, okay, who does it say more about? I thought it said more about Chelsea. That the market's probably they're still not consistent enough to warrant the market prices they're getting, even if they are improved. I also thought that United got one of those Bruno games. Bruno's a world-class player. And when he's been down a little bit this year, but he still has it in his bag. He's going to play a lot of high-risk passes. He's going to be very aggressive in build-up and in ball progression and trying to get the ball in the box. And when it comes off for a day, he looks like the best player in the world. And today, expected threat for him alone was 0.8. That's insanity in terms of getting the ball forward quickly into the penalty area and being a major factor. And then, of course, I know he missed the pen, but the XG numbers for United were amazing. It comes without Marcus Rashford, which makes it interesting. Does Rashford start? Because Garnacho was really impressive today. Antony was not. Do they play Garnacho and Rashford? There's all kinds of different things they can do here. Either way, I think Bournemouth is absolutely improving. And I think you could tell me right now, who is the market, in terms of trend lines over the course of a whole season, who is the market still not caught up to yet? It's been the improvement in Bournemouth in the last 3 weeks to a month, where they're getting all these wins. They're outplaying Palace at Palace. That's a good result. I mean, they were pretty dominant in that game. That's not nothing. Going away to a mid-table team and beating them pretty comfortably, not something Bournemouth was doing early in the Iraola era, and now they're doing it. So the consistency and the form is really improving. I'm believing in it. And United, it felt more like a blip. I mean, we watched the same United team get absolutely annihilated at Newcastle on Sunday. Do we really think that, or Saturday, do we really think that much changed between then and now? I don't. So I think, Bournemouth +1 for me. Bournemouth and Palace +1. My first 2 weekend bets in the Prem.
It just begs to be repeated before we move on to Sheffield United and Brentford is this United team can lose to anybody. They already shown that.
Hey, they got another good win. Fine. We put it in the sample.
And I think that's probably it. They can beat anybody.
They only lost 1-0 at Newcastle. You look at the final score, you're like, they were competitive. You can downgrade, as much as you may have downgraded them on Sunday, you can upgrade them right back up. It still gets us to the same point we've been on this United team, which is that they can't defend. They cannot defend. So maybe over. What's the first half? Both teams to score again, but it's just they just don't defend. So when they play competent attacking teams, it's a problem.
Would you consider Sheffield United a competent attacking team?
No.
They're +375 this weekend at home, hosting Brentford. Chris Wilder is back, baby, back in the dugout at Bramall Lane. Good to have him back. The overlapping center backs. What a genius he was. Brentford -150, and the draw is 3-1. I actually think the draw is a good bet here. I'd expect that Sheffield United is just going to park it and try to just stabilize itself and get itself hunted.
I mean, they're at home, Brentford away, but we just saw last week Brentford was -200, and we're like, well, Brentford is a favorite at home against a worse team, but the gap just is that big this year between these bad teams and these good teams, or mid-table. The newly promoted teams, Luton, Sheffield, Burnley, have had no success. Burnley went to Brentford and got smoked. Luton went to Brentford and got smoked. The thing we said about Brentford forever was when Brentford's a favorite, they're always bottom 5 in shots per 90. They don't get a ton of volume. They need 1 or 2 big chances to make it work. And if they don't get them, then they're vulnerable. And it works great as a dog because they're not going to have the ball, but when they're a favorite, they struggle. They have not had that problem this year. I mean, first of all, they're up to top half of the league in shots per 90. They're still top half in shot quality. Their big chance numbers are actually down. So that actually, you could look at it and say, well, that means they're not getting as many big chances, but they're also getting average chances at a much higher rate, which I think is more sustainable. So I think Brentford's been just fine as a favorite. And when they've played the shit teams, they've beat the shit teams. So,
Yep.
like, do they
It's
not win here? But again, like, you
this is
upgrade
more a
Sheffield,
pencil and paper kind of thing.
the spot with the new manager.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah, I get
exactly.
it.
Yep. Dig
But
in.
I don't. I mean, there was some market movement against Brentford today. Like there was some minus 135s out there, 130. Like I hope it keeps getting bet down because I'll lay 110, 120 happily with the bees here. I don't know that it will get that low, but that's my belief.
Wolves
Brentford
next.
has changed a little bit. I wrote about it in my Brighton Brentford preview, kind of like how their Brentford has changed defensively a little bit and in attack that they're, maybe playing a more sustainable style and more aggressive against these bad teams.
Be sure to go check that out. And then we'll also check out Wolves and Forest here. Wolverhampton, once again, an odds-on favorite at home against the Tricky Trees. Should we just replay what we said about Wolves versus Burnley?
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting that the market thinks Forest and Burnley are even teams based on this number.
Yeah, I mean, and Forest
just got Forest better.
Yeah, I would say too. Exactly. Forest just got absolutely dominated. Steve Cooper and had his
worst
players
bet I'll make all year.
Apologize. Yeah, that was. I had someone text me who I didn't know. Yeah. Him and the whole team. They went over to the away stand and apologized to the traveling supporters, and just speaks volumes of the kind of guy that Steve Cooper is.
I agree. Great.
If you believe in get right, I'm not I shouldn't say get right spots, but if you believe in like motivational or bounce back spots, you probably have this one circled as Forest have to be better. Like they just got embarrassed by Fulham. And Wolves, like we said, was it 72 hours ago? Like you're probably not going to be interested in Wolves in the spot if you've been in the weeds betting this team. Like we love Wolves when they're punching up, not when they're punching down like this. And I actually like Forest again. Whatever, just keep going. I'll go back to them. I'll take my medicine. If it happens again, it happens again. But the number's too good to go against a Wolverhampton team that better than expected, but not this good. And they don't deserve all that much credit also from what we just saw against Burnley.
I'll say this. Nottingham Forest has now played 26 away matches since they rejoined the Premier League. They have won 2 of those matches. One was at Chelsea, in which Chelsea missed like 4 or 5 sitters, and it was hilarious, and Forest won. The other one was last year against Southampton, who finished bottom of the table. They have had 6 draws. They have had 18 defeats. It's been really, really bad, and it's still really, really bad. Their XG difference at home is positive. Their XG difference away from home is negative, and I think we can get a little bit caught up in like the noise of these samples. They're small samples of data we're looking at with home roads, but when you watch the games, it doesn't look like the same team. And so, do I want to bet Forest again into this freaking road spot against an even team that they're not any worse than, but like when they go on the road, they play like a second tier team. I mean, they were horrible against Fulham today. Fulham got everything they wanted, destroyed them, and we're not high on Fulham. I don't think Fulham's any good. So the fact that Fulham, who struggles as a favorite, made it look so easy today, just leaves me alarmed. And now that being said, you're right. Like team gets embarrassed, there should be a response. That makes this an interesting spot for them because if they don't respond, then you have to start asking questions about Cooper. I think because the talent on this team is better than they're performing.
Everton, as I said earlier, they are playing on Thursday. We're recording Wednesday night. They are hosting Chelsea here. The Toffees plus 220. Chelsea traveling as a plus 120 road favorite, and draw would pay out plus 240 at Goodison Park. Feels like this one can go. You could go in the same sort of direction as we did with Newcastle and Everton, which is probably just about more saying about how Everton wants to play games. than anything else, which is probably going to be goals in this. If Chelsea has its scoring boots on, which is one thing, I guess you always have to consider. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see this one finishing like as a snooze fest. So this Everton team they can
The
absolutely contend.
over's a little more juiced at 2.5. I'm
It's
not gonna.
I find that weird. Like I would have thought that you'd probably see the last I saw Newcastle Everton over was 2.5 at minus
Minus 110.
115. Yeah. Which to me
This
it's
one's like minus 130 ish.
yeah, I find that to be
Yeah.
strange.
I actually have them right around the same number, which is why I bet the over on Thursday for Everton Newcastle. But I think that this is about right. I don't have a strong opinion here. Look, if you're one of those people who's like, well, what has Chelsea done to deserve this market rating? This is the same price. The market says Chelsea and Newcastle are even teams. Do you? If you don't, then you probably should bet Everton here on Sunday. I would understand waiting too, though. I think from a tactical matchup, Everton is not going to leave a ton of space in behind. So that's not great for Chelsea and how they normally like to attack teams. But Everton could very well be very different tactically in this match against Newcastle than they are against Chelsea, in the sense that Dyche knows that he's a smart manager. Chelsea's biggest weakness is if you just give them the ball and sit deep and then say, okay, you don't have a lot of technically great players in tight spaces. Can you break us down? And he plays that style, this could get ugly and be just like a low scoring affair. So I don't really like Everton is very volatile in how they approach matches, and what Dyche decides to do is up in the air. But I think if he were being smart, he would sit deep and dare Chelsea to beat them at Goodison. And I don't know that they could. So no bet for me here yet. Probably won't end up having one either.
The bogey team of the podcast, Fulham plus 137, taking on West Ham plus 180.
I've never wanted to bet a match less than Fulham West Ham this weekend.
Draws
or watch it. I mean, I'm sure it'll be good. It's a London derby and two mid-table teams, two teams that I've bet against more than any other in the Prem this year. West Ham hasn't played yet.
Yeah. I don't think there's much to add.
Well, Fulham did it again. I didn't have the match on, but I got the goal alert. I'm like, Alex Iwobi scored again. Like Alex Iwobi and Scott McTominay should get dinner somewhere and talk about how their managers have somehow figured out a way to get them in positions where all they do is score goals and don't really contribute a ton else to the team. Because
Frank Lampard did it.
Yeah.
Iwobi was a scoring machine. I think he had 4 for Everton that year.
Yeah, and look, it's a part of their skill set. They're both good at it, and it's masked some other attacking flaws. Raul scored, the ghost of Raul.
Beautiful goal.
I know somebody messaged in our
Raul.
Action Network Discord. Raul doubled his XG total for the season with his big chance today that he finished. It's just like they can't keep doing this. They can't. I will go to my deathbed, which is where I will be soon if they keep winning. But saying that the Fulham can't keep getting away with this. But you know what? Forest plus 0.5, one of the worst bets I'll make all year. And I'll tell you what's not going to be one of the worst bets I make all year. West Ham in this match. So I'm going to pass.
And to wrap up the Premier League portion of the program, scuffling Manchester City traveling to Kenilworth Road, taking on Luton Town. I
was sitting at lunch watching this match yesterday, Luton and Arsenal, and I was starting to draft my apology letter at 3-2.
It wasn't an apology letter. It was you were not going to be on the podcast for
going
in the sin bin.
I was just going to be me tonight. That would have been a rough pod. You would have had to get Alon Shapiro, emergency pod, to drop by and maybe offer some commentary.
It would have been me. It would have been me, Alon, and Fabrizio going.
And Eric Winalda.
Yep.
Eric Winalda would have said how he saw this coming.
Yeah.
And he knew Luton was going to beat Arsenal.
Yeah.
Because it's so tough to go to Kenilworth Road. I love when they show the matches and the camera is so low you can barely it's so different from all the other ones.
Now Cities gets to deal with it.
Now they do get Rodri back from suspension. They do get Grealish back from suspension. So they'll have a functional team this week.
De Bruyne not too far away either.
He's looking like January, right?
Yeah.
So They're minus 110 to win the title. No thanks. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Liverpool will play Arsenal coming up in a couple weeks here, right before Christmas. City's got a little bit of a lighter patch coming up here now. It will be fascinating because they don't look like they have the same juice right now. But we said the same thing last year before the World Cup break. And then they just did have the juice and dominated everybody in the second half. So maybe they need a break, but they're not going to really get one. I mean, they're going to play a lot of matches here. Club World Cup coming up.
Yep.
They're going to get a couple matches off from the Prem. So they're going to be behind in the points too, by the way, like games played. So it's going to look bigger than it actually is, kind of like last year. And I'm not betting City yet. People have asked me. I'm not betting Aston Villa. Somebody asked me that too. For me, it's still Liverpool's got the best chance to do it. Arsenal, if Jesus could stay healthy, maybe. But City Luton, no bet. If it got to 2.5 flat, I'd bet it, but I don't think it will.
Okay, Bundesliga next. Actually, I can just flip it over to you here. You can take us on an adventure through all of Europe with BJ on the sidelines, and I'll catch up to you when we talk about our underdogs.
I'm just going to go on a huge rant right here.
Yeah, here we go.
All right,
just take it.
All right, here we go. And Stuttgart, there's some really big matches in the Bundesliga this weekend. 2 highlight matches. Stuttgart is going to host Leverkusen, the second and third best team in the Bundesliga this year by every metric you look at. The second best team has actually been Stuttgart, and they're at home catching almost a half goal. There's a half goal, minus 145 out there. Stuttgart beat Dortmund this week in the Pokal. At home, they continue to roll. This team's metrics all look legit to me. Like if you go under the hood, last year they had all of the metrics in terms of like ball progression and box entries, and they didn't really have great XG numbers, and then they were underperforming them. They've upgraded in goal this year. Like everything about this team is trending up in the right direction and looks like a legitimate top 4 team. They're not being priced like it though, because they're a half goal underdog against a Leverkusen team who has basically the same exact numbers. These two teams have been extremely similar, but I'm getting half goal to a quarter goal at home where this really should be a pick 'em, I think, in Stuttgart. Leverkusen's still a little better based on priors, but not that much. So I do like Stuttgart at home. We continue to bet them every week. Leverkusen is currently second in the Bundesliga now. Leipzig and Dortmund will play off somehow not the biggest match on the weekend, which is crazy for the race, but if you can stomach it, I do think the total's a little bit too high. Makoko went off injured today in the cup, so that's like a good depth piece. Fulkrug should start, and he's been their main guy this year, but they do like to use Makoko in the second half and get those late goals in there, and when they don't get them, they're just not quite as good. Dortmund, still really flawed defensively, but they are at home here. Leipzig's attack has run better than everybody in all of Europe just about this season. If you look at their defense, though, especially away from home, they've still been elite, conceding 1 XG per match away from home, creating, though, just 8 expected goals in 6 away matches, which is pretty bad for them. So I think this Leipzig attack is still overvalued. The total's sitting at 3.5, under minus 130. I have it closer to 3. So if you wanted to play the under there, I would not blame you. It's an ultimate hold your nose under, though, because these fixtures between these two teams historically have flown over the total with relative comfort. And so, like, I know they played in the Pokal quarterfinals and ended 2-0, but the league matches, I should say, between these two teams, pretty much a lock for 3 to 4 goals in the past. So I do think this total's a touch high, under 3.5 in this one for me in the Bundesliga. And as we transition into Serie A, there's a couple games. We're playing the hits. Roma again. They had a comeback win against Udinese, against Sassuolo last week because of a red card and a penalty. Some luck there, but they're at home against Fiorentina. The market is saying that Roma and Fiorentina are about equal teams. And look, I know we've talked about this Fiorentina team, and we bet them a lot last year. They don't look nearly as consistent this year from a box perspective. Like, they've really taken a step back. They lost some talent in the penalty area. Their defense, like, they play a style that's very open in Serie A. And because the pressing numbers are so mediocre league wide, if you're not going to press a lot and then you're going to be open at the back and leave space in behind, you're going to get got. And that's exactly what's happened to this Fiorentina team. They're 13th in non-penalty expected goals allowed, despite having the fewest final third entries in the league, because when they do get broken open, they give up goals. And that's just not what you want to do against Jose Mourinho, who will sit deep and wait for 1-2 opportunities and get them and then score. So this Roma team looks like a legit top four. They're elite at guarding in the penalty area. Their XG per set piece is terrible. I think that's been some bad luck. Teams have hit some really good set pieces on them and hurt them. But Roma plus 110 at home. Bologna has been a bet on team for me most of the season. I bet them a couple times. I think they're undervalued against BJ's hate squad of Salernitana. So I'll go with Roma plus 115, plus 110, and then I like Bologna on the road. Bologna's quietly been trending up too. They do a really nice job, underrated job of investing in young talent, and it's worked for them this year. Xerxes, the former Bayern reject, 5 goals for them this year. As we go to La Liga, the match of the weekend at the top of the table is Girona, who continues to own me and everybody who bets against them. They scored 2 late goals to beat Valencia. They go to Barca. Thought we'd get a good Barca spot. Market still not respecting this Girona team, though. Barca minus 200. No Ter Stegen until January. No thank you on that one. I'll be passing. Definitely not going to bet Girona, but do think that number's a little high. Girona's not been terrible, even though they've had a weak schedule. My actual bet in La Liga is going to be Mallorca pick'em minus 110 on the island against Sevilla. Mallorca's played 7 matches at home this year. They've drawn 6 of them. They've lost 1. They have not won at home all year, but they've only had 9 total goals in their games. It's been some of the worst, most diabolical soccer you'll ever see. Now they play Sevilla, who away from home this year has created less than 1 expected goal. Unless they get like a cross and get on the board here, like it's really hard to see Sevilla creating much. And Mallorca has been just the better team overall. They're at home. At worst, I could make this Mallorca minus a quarter goal. I think it should be even higher. So I'm just, higher than the market on this Mallorca team, but think that Sevilla continues to get market respect they don't deserve. Sevilla did have a lead in the Fraud Bowl against Villarreal. Then they blew it. They blew a lead to Eindhoven, blew a lead to Sociedad. This team has been really bad at holding leads too. So that definitely hurts if Mallorca has to go for it late and they're trying to hold on a lead. So Mallorca, pick them in Spain. And then in France, classic buy low, sell high on Friday afternoon. Montpellier is plus 215. They have lost or drawn 5 straight matches. Pretty much every match has been a coin flip by XG. They've even won a couple of them. And you look at Lyon, who had a terrible start to the year. Remember, we were fading them early. They've won 5 in a row, but they've had pretty even expected goals in those 5 matches. The market started to bump them. I don't really agree. I think they've been kind of just the same average Ligue 1 team all year. So not much difference between these two teams. Montpellier plus 215 against Lyon. I think that line is just short. I think they should be a pick 'em at worst.
It's beautifully done. And I'm back. It's time to talk underdogs. BJ is on one of the teams you talked about. That's Stuttgart, as they take on Bayer Leverkusen. They are 2-1 on the money line. For me, I'm going with Bournemouth, going against Manchester United once again in this spot.
We're back. We had 1 week.
1 week off.
United.
Yeah. We cashed our United tickets against Chelsea. Now we get to just leave it rear view mirror stuff and go right back into the rhythm that makes us that feels natural to us, which is going against this team and going against them with big prices. They've already proven that they can lose to anybody this season. They've lost to Copenhagen, Galatasaray. They've barely beaten teams like Sheffield United and Fulham and all sorts of teams in the same tier as Bournemouth. A Bournemouth team that is steadily rising up the Premier League rankings here. We like this team. The definition of a bet on team against the definition of a bet against team. So play on the cherries here, 4-1 for me.
And I will go with Aston Villa plus 250 at home against Arsenal. I think this is a high variance matchup because if you think that everything that happened in the Villa City match had more to do with City, I'm probably wrong. And Villa probably won't beat Arsenal and win back-to-back matches against the 2 or the 3 top teams in the league. But this home voodoo that Villa has, this ability to play through pressure that they've able to come with at Villa Park has been really impressive and something that's worth taking a flyer on continuing at plus 250 against Arsenal, who again has built up a lot of great home wins, but the away form has been a little bit shakier. So take that what it may. Arsenal's now had 5 games where they've either equalized or won in the 88th minute or later. That's the stuff of magical carpet ride seasons that win titles. But you know what? I'm not going to say it because I don't think it's going to happen.
That parlay Stuttgart, Bournemouth, and Aston Villa pays out a flat 50-1, 5-0 to 1. My favorite bet in the Premier League now as we move into our final segment of this episode is Newcastle on the money line against Tottenham. Newcastle on the road here, but I'm not all that concerned there. They're getting bodies back. They've been a better team than Tottenham all season, despite the records not looking that way. Every predictive metric we look at tells you that story. And I know the Spurs are getting better, and we could start to see them maybe bounce back into form a bit here, but they're punching up, I think, in this spot, and I would make this closer to a pick 'em. Market disagrees. We will see. So I like Newcastle plus 175.
Yeah, I mean, even when Tottenham were healthy, they weren't that good, which I know you guys tried to tell me, but I didn't listen. I'm going to go with Crystal Palace +1 at home against Liverpool. I know that Liverpool had a routine win against Sheffield. I know the Palace looked pretty bad against Bournemouth, but the line did move up. And as a result, it's less than -110 here on the +1. You can get -109. I really think that Liverpool's inflated. Their defense is still not consistent enough. And I know I laid it against Fulham and lost, but I think this Liverpool team with the backup goalie, with McAllister going off today and Salah looking exhausted, like it just feels like Liverpool is a little vulnerable right now. They have some big fixtures coming up, and I'm going to take the Palace underdog story here, +1 at home, to just be really annoying in this spot and make it really tough for Liverpool to break them down and get margin.
We will be back on Monday morning to preview the final matches in the group stage of the Champions League. So until then, best of luck with all your bets. Thank you once again to our producer Noah on the back end, and thank you to our sponsors Bet365 for Anthony DeBundo and BJ Cunningham. I'm Michael Leboff.